Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Warning: this video may contain explicit descriptions of drug use, violence, and sexual situations. Viewer discretion is advised as this content may not be suitable for all audiences.
Hello and welcome to this video. I hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone is doing fine. Hope the universe is treating you well. Today we are continuing our journey into the Kingdom of Fear by one Dr. Hunter S. Thompson. So, without further ado, let's get into this.
They kind of adopted me. Most of the girls were at least bisexual, and they were fun. A lot of them were the stars of this new style of films. Juliet Anderson, later famous as Aunt Peg, was a big one. Veronica Hart was another. She is still making films and is pretty good at her trade.
Yeah, I guess we're still doing the his involvement in the porn industry, or the titty bar industry, I should say.
Now, we arrive at the complicated part of the story. I understand situations like the one I'm about to tell you, and I know how strange they can get. I have spent more time in the belly of that beast than I can ever admit, and certainly not in print. I have never felt tempted to tell these stories in public.
I think I may have hit the 30-second button because I think a lot of this is overlapping from the last video.
Or even in private for that matter, except on some moonless nights when I start feeling lonely and sentimental and strung out on combat or pussy or fear, like our old friend from Arkansas.
I think he's talking about old Billy Boy Clinton.
But tonight might be that kind of night. So what the hell? I'd never heard of Gail Palmer. I didn't need to hear about her, but I got a letter one day telling me that I was off, that I didn't really get it. I had written that the new feminist pornography was going to take over. She wrote arguing that I didn't understand the sex business.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
And she said she wanted to explain it to me. I didn't give a fuck. I got several more letters from her, leading up to the infamous Hallmark card, which my defense attorneys later presented in court, that was full of lewd, tiny, very dense writing.
Yeah, sometimes, you just gotta know where to stop. Don't put everything out there that would incriminate you.
The front of it said, "Sex is a dirty business." When you opened it up, it read, "But somebody has to do it." She took up every white surface inside the card with her little tense handwriting, telling me all the fun we could have. More fun than a barrel of monkeys in heat, and that she could really straighten me out about what I knew and thought about the sex business.
And this particular section kind of reminds me, or I should say it does remind me of Transmetropolitan, but I think what it is, it's more of when Thompson is talking about his incursion into the adult entertainment industry, it kind of reminds me of in Transmetropolitan when we're just getting introduced to the different characters, and you have the Angels 8 riots, and Spider Jerusalem is in the stripper club, and he's talking about it, and through the next several issues he makes references to strip clubs and working in the industry. And this this to me is kind of this comes across as where this could have been the inspiration that Ellis used.
Meanwhile, She had also sent me a thick sheaf of press clippings and 2 films. In one, she's wearing a bodysuit and skipping rope in a high office building, looking out on what appears to be Long Beach Harbor. While she is skipping rope, she is singing to her own little song, repeating the stanzas once or twice. Porno queen, it's not a seamy scene. Porno queen, you think that sounds funny? Then why am I making so much money?
Well, you know, regardless of one's personal views on pornography, she's got a point. I mean, the adult industry, especially in this day and age, is quasi-legit. You've got a lot of people, a lot of women that come up through the ranks, starting out as actresses, now own their own companies. So, you know, does have a point, and it all feeds into the whole sex sells thing.
It was sickening. She thought it was a very sexy come-on and that she was irresistible. But she was wrong. I got another letter not long afterward telling me she would be in town in February and would be staying at the Stonebridge Inn in Snowmass, and that she wanted to get together with me. Her presumption was as telling as the rest of it. I had a lot of sex film girls coming on to me during that period. A lot of people had noticed what I had done for girls like Bambi and Joanne at the O'Farrell. I was a favorite there. I was the people's night manager. I didn't think much about Gail Palmer's upcoming visit, but Deborah, my major domo, put it on the calendar, just in pencil. I guess she thought I wasn't having enough fun.
Either that or she's just screwing with him, one of the two.
Which could have been true, but Gail Palmer didn't fit the bill. I had no interest in her, a big, hefty hustler, or in her side of the story. On the night of Georgetown versus Syracuse, a big basketball game, Tim Charles, an old friend and a Georgetown fan.
See, I've never... That's one thing you don't ever have to worry about interrupting me on, is a sporting event, because if I tell you I'd rather be watching a sporting event, that is pretty much your clue to get lost, because I am not a sports fan.
Came over to watch the game and to fix my Macintosh amplifier. There were 2 exterior fuses on the back of the...
See, I wonder if if it's the same Macintosh. I don't know. The boots. I'm thinking of the boots, the rubber boots, because that's the English term for rubber rain boots is Macintosh. No, not the boots. Maybe the jacket or raincoat. Because I'm not sure, but I think that's where Apple got the inspiration for their name. I just wonder if the speaker company, that's where they got their inspiration from.
Amp, and I somehow knew, or sensed, that there was a 3rd interior fuse, which Tim did not believe. He refused to give up the idea that he knew better, so he took the amp apart on the kitchen floor.
Yeah, I know people like that.
Like a watch, all in pieces. Semmes Luckett, the grandson of the great Confederate Admiral Raphael Semmes, was also here. He was here all the time. I was in a work frenzy, still trying to finish Songs of the Doomed, which had recently been interrupted by Floyd Watkins and the Giant Porcupine.
that was an interesting story. I kind of like that story.
Kat, my assistant from the University of Florida, was here as well. We had the whole book spread out on the living room table. Kat was in charge of keeping the 3 manuscript copies identical. They changed every day, and the changes had to be transferred to the other 2. I was not plotting to seize her, but I was thinking that later we could go in the hot tub together and have some fun. I just finished an art...
See, when he talks like that, or when Hunter writes stuff like that, I think it's more boasting or verbose, because everything I've ever seen, interviews, stuff like that, despite the way he talks, and the way he acts, the way he, when he's around guys, he does that guy macho thing. But the stuff I've seen when he's been around women and stuff like that, he's been very gentlemanly. I just don't see him being overly aggressive. I could see him coming on and the girl going no, and him going okay, cool. But if she says yes, then that's a whole different, that's a whole different barrel of monkeys in heat.
Article for some women's magazine like Elle. It was sort of a celebratory moment. I wanted to clear the house and unwind for a night. There are some subtle details in this story that you have to appreciate to understand what happened. I wanted to watch the Georgetown game. I would have watched it anyway with just Kat. She was fun to watch sports with because she would bet. But then Tim or Sims brought up the fact that the Grammys were coming on after the game. Jimmy Buffett was going to be on, and they wanted to watch it. I didn't want to watch the fucking Grammys, and
I am with Thompson there. I do not like award shows. I used to, though. In the late 80s through high school and in my early 20s, I loved award shows. Emmys, Grammys, Tonys, what have you. But somewhere around 25, 26 years old, I just kind of lost interest in them.
did not plan to. Meanwhile, the amplifier was still in pieces on the floor. It was not going to get fixed until Tim figured out that there was an internal fuse, which was very deep in the middle. I knew that. Tim did not. And Sims didn't care. Sims was drinking a lot of beer. He had been planning to go into town.
Thing is at the particular time period that this was taking place, the whole microbrewery thing wasn't it was in its development phase. It wasn't even in its infant phase. It was in its conception phase. You know, the primordial microbrew sperm had hit the microbrewery egg and started dividing at this point. So he was probably drinking like let's see how the best way to describe the type of beer that was commonly in America at that time. Oh, like Sex in a Canoe, which basically translates to pretty close to water. So, yeah, now in the horrid year of 2024 of our Lord, we've got just about any kind of beer that you would want, and probably some that you don't.
He wanted to go dancing. Tim was eventually going home to dinner and his wife, Carol Ann. The game was very good, a 2-point game. Georgetown won. I was waiting for them to get the fuck out. I think we were smoking some weed. I was ready to let my hair down, but not with them around.
I wonder what cat. I ought to do some Googling, see if I find some pictures from about that time period. And see if there's any pictures of his assistant Cat, because Thompson is known for stretching things, or kind of not all out lying, just kind of using language to let your brain fill in the blanks incorrectly.
Kat may have known what I was thinking. We hadn't planned anything, but she probably understood it. Tim was getting cranked up, fixated on the fucking machinery, and Sims was getting sloppy drunk and starting to sink into the winged chair, slumped over. Sims was not a fun drunk. He was constantly worried about his fucking probation. In my desperation, I looked up at the calendar, maybe I remembered her pending visit, and saw the note Deborah had written. Gail Palmer. It was just a quick scan. Then,
yeah. Sometimes those things could be a hindrance and a help.
click. I thought for a minute how Sims had been complaining about the women in Aspen all eat shit. just a bunch of whores. Nobody to go dancing with. He was a dancing fool. It seemed like a solution.
I do not like dancing. I cannot dance. Yeah, I have no coordination when it comes to that.
And before I thought it all the way through, I said, Sims, I got a solution to your fucking problem. He had started to look like he might be discouraged over the fact that he couldn't get a date. I was trying to push him out, edge him out, encourage him out. He didn't jump right on it, but I insisted. I've got a date for you. This is a really hot, wild woman. I had the file. I showed him the press clippings. I was doing a real selling job on her. I said, you just call her and she'll be your date. She'll whoop it up with you. I'll even pay for the drinks. I convinced him to go in the other room and call the witness. I could hear him talking, but I didn't care to hear what he was saying.
I've been kind of partial on phone calls like that myself.
As far as I was concerned, he was leaving to go meet her. Suddenly, he appeared at the kitchen door, leaving the phone in the living room, and said, she wants to meet you. She wants to meet you before we go dancing.
Yeah, that's not gonna be good.
To resolve it took 3 different calls and 3 visits from Sims to the kitchen. The witness wanted to meet me, and I was really unhappy about that. On Sims's second trip to the kitchen, I finally said, oh fuck, all right, Sims, you tell her to get in a cab and come here, but tell the cab to wait. She wouldn't agree to the date without meeting me, and it pissed me off. When Sims came back in the kitchen for the 3rd time and said, she wants to know if she can bring her husband, I said, fuck no, absolute.
Yeah, I'm there with Thompson.
Not even for a drive-by. It took half an hour more of dickering and fucking around before she accepted that. I could see Sims had a weird setup coming with a husband in the picture.
Yeah, that's just gotta be awkward.
She wanted an interview with me. She wanted to talk to me about the sex business. She thought of herself as the Ralph Nader of the sex business, and she wanted to form a partnership with me and put out a line of sex toys.
Gross. I mean, I'm not opposed to sex toys. But I have no wanting, no desire to get into that kind of market, and the fabrication of synthetic penises, vaginas, breasts, what have you, it just, the finished product doesn't bother me. It's the process of getting from material to finished product that kind of weirds me out, to be honest with you.
Perhaps a high-quality line of dildos. I wanted no part of that, of course. I had no need, no interest, and my experience with her up to that point made her nothing but a negative, dishonest face. I can see now, telling this story, that I lost control of it little by little.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about Thompson's writing, is he was very self-aware. He was very knowledgeable of who, where, what was going on, and when he screwed up, and wasn't afraid to admit he screwed up. And with that, we'll go ahead and call this video good here, and we'll see you in the next video. You'll see me, actually, in the next video. And as always, be a good human, be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?